Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Divergent Vibes podcast. I'm Hannah, and I'm joined by Lucy today. So
Hi.
welcome, Lucy. And do you want to say anything by way of introduction?
Um, yeah, I'm Lucy and I live in Wiltshire on the Bath side of Wiltshire. I found out about a year ago that I have ADHD. I had no idea I had ADHD before that. I guessed I was dyslexic when I was quite young, but never had a clue that I had ADHD. So that was a revelation for me. Um, So, yeah, that's a huge part of what I'm bringing today, I think. And I work with, I support young people and adults using creativity and nature to reconnect with themselves and to grow self-confidence. And it's funny how I'm now using all of those skills to kind of turn in and look at myself. So, that's me. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy that you invited me along. I think it's a really lovely space and a good way of bringing up topics that can feel tricky, but this is an informal way of doing it. So hopefully it feels relaxed here and it feels like there's no agenda. So, and I guess that's similar to life, isn't it? You feel like all you want is informal and relax and just to be how you are
Yeah.
rather than an agenda. So I really believe that that's a good way to be. So this is what this space gives. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. And I have a question already from what you said,
Yeah,
but I don't know whether to go with that or ask you what you want to talk about. Um,
go for it.
Go for it. So all those skills that you have in the work you're doing to helping people connect to themselves.
Yeah.
And so then I was really curious what that's been like, that's your work, you help people connect to themselves,
Hmm.
and suddenly there's this like grenade maybe of
Yeah.
like, hey, by the way, there's this other thing about yourself that you
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, what's that been like?
Um, I think that work-wise, it suddenly clicked. Like that's why I get along so well with neurodiverse clients, whether they're at primary school, secondary school, adults working, adults not working. I just have this affinity, or I felt that I did, but I couldn't really put a finger on it. I just thought, oh, well, maybe I've just got good empathy and da da da. But I kept on getting people who were ADHD, autistic, DHD. So that made sense to me then once I got the diagnosis that, well, we're probably checking each other's nervous systems as soon as we're in, the same room and we feel relaxed because there's probably this thing that goes off, oh, it's cool. This person's going to know a bit more how I am and accept me for how I am. So I think that made a huge difference to my understanding of why I keep getting those clients, and loving having those clients. And the other thing is, it helped me really hone in on what might they need, what might they be going through because of their neurodiversity, because what have I gone through, what have I learned once I got diagnosed, or the lead up to being diagnosed and the whole process of getting diagnosed.
Mhm.
What was that like for me? And also, I did titration, which is really interesting because a lot of my teenage clients go through titration when they're trying to cope with school, choosing their GCSEs, taking their GCSEs. Dynamics at home are changing because they are finding their identity. Hormones are raging,
Mhm.
so that all of that's going on. So I really get that they might be going through the titration process as well, and I know what that is like, and that's quite tough. and then what people think about medication and what people think about being neurodiverse. There are so many things to navigate that I think my diagnosis really helped me really sit into that and ground into that. So when I'm with those, especially young people, I can advocate for them in school meetings and team around the child and things like that with the schools and with parents and psychologists and educational psychiatrists, all of that. I can advocate for those people, I think, better. I was
Mm.
already doing that, but now I'm no, these people need to be heard because it's really important they get what they need, and it's okay to ask for what you need. So I think that's what it did for me in terms of work. I think my personal life got completely tipped upside down because I was like, what? Wait, no, 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 no. But my children got diagnosed before me. I think my youngest had his diagnosis after me, but basically we were all very similar times. So my eldest and my middle child, my son and my daughter, they got their diagnosis first. But thinking about it, they went through the whole of school. I went through the whole of school. I went through the whole of having kids. I went through the whole of so many things, setting up a business, another business, working corporate, doing all of these amazing things, not having a clue. And my children didn't have a clue either. And I guess it's because I had ADHD as a single mum. I navigated everything how we all needed it because I got it without knowing I got it. So I think that's a really good journey. But the other flip side of that is I look at myself now as an older person, a more mature person, and think, wow, I have achieved a lot. And my children are incredible, incredible. They're all really independent. They've all been true to themselves. They're very authentic, very colourful, gorgeous people. And I think because they got totally accepted and they
Mm.
totally accepted me. So in our own little bubble, we had this lovely strength and bonding. And I think that, looking at us, we've achieved a lot. And so that is something that maybe clients notice, because I guess, when you're a significant other to some people, you could be a role model or seen as a role model, especially when I run forest school groups, because that's another thing that I do. Um, Being able to have the knowledge that I'm capable of all of these things. This is not holding me back.
Yeah.
This neurodiversity is not holding me back. And it hasn't held my children back either, because I do sometimes hear people, younger people say, what am I going to do? How am I going to cope with this? How am I going to get anywhere? Because I now know that I've got this. And I say, well, that is not going to hold you back. And then we go down the route of looking at our skills and looking at really taking a closer look at what we're amazing at, what we're drawn to, what we enjoy, what makes us feel happy, what makes us feel content, and taking up the space that we need in the world and not being embarrassed or masking. Yes, you have to get by because obviously we live in society where there are rules and being polite and waiting your turn, and all of that comes into play. Um, but I think that all of those ingredients are probably in me. This is what I've already done, and it hasn't held me back. So it's not going to hold you back. And then finding that way through, connecting with the art or being out in nature, what brings you that peace, what brings you that happiness right now in this moment, and how can we expand that so that it flows into other areas of your life? It's fascinating, really fascinating to me. Yeah, so it feels like I've rambled and you asked me like one simple question, but
It's great.
there's so
Yeah.
much in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great. And I think the role modeling, I think, is such an important thing. And it made me think of when I was teaching. And so I was teaching a residential college with autistic students, predominantly autistic, that had other mental health and neurodivergent things as well. And that's actually where I realized I was autistic because they were like, you're one of us. So it was almost the other way around. I learned that about myself from them. But I always remember, um, I was quite just me,
Hmm.
how I am. But one day, I can't remember why, I had like a meltdown, and I'm more a shutdown than
Hmm.
meltdown person.
Yeah.
But I had like a full meltdown. I was crying, and there was like a punch bag outside that they could use to regulate, and I was just sort of crying, punching the punch bag with like heavy music on it. One of my students came over and was like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I'm fine. I just need to
Yeah.
do
Offload.
this."
Yeah.
And they were like, "I'll make you a coffee." And I did that, and then I went back in to teach. And it's like actually just being like, this happens,
Yeah.
and there are
And it's
ways
okay.
it's okay. And then
Yeah.
you can kind of go back
Yeah.
and to have, there's more people in the media now that,
Yeah.
that are open about their diagnosis and talking about the experience, but also people in their lives, whether it's, at school,
Yes.
whether it's
Yeah.
forest school, wherever it is, people who like, that's been my experience as well. And actually, yeah, it's challenging sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
there are strengths
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah. That must have been incredible for you, being going out there, doing what you needed to do, and a student recognizing, is there anything I can get for you? And how powerful that is for them, because then you come back in and you can carry on.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are scared that when they have a huge overwhelm like that, and it can be, so in their body and completely take over. So they have to lie down or leave the room or walk around or whatever it is. Like, I'm so afraid of doing that in case I can't come back.
Mm.
So because they're learning about, well, how far can I go? What can I let be seen?
Yeah.
So for them to experience you coming back in and, okay, I'm regulated now, let's
Yeah.
carry on. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely fine. It's completely accepted.
Yeah.
You did what you need to do. You took
Yeah.
your time and you allowed yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important.
I will say though, I think there are some spaces that it maybe is still challenging on that kind of system level
Yeah,
to do that. So thinking about education, and I thought actually there are some settings that maybe, if I did that, it wouldn't be so okay, wouldn't be so acceptable. But then
yeah,
I did teach in a mainstream college, and I had a meltdown, and it came from a sort of a quite justice place that the students, I was due to have the students for the day, like their normal scheduled thing. We were prepping for their exam, and suddenly one of the other units, that there was a lot of mess basically because of staff sickness and cover. They hadn't done their exam that they needed to, and it was like sprung on them that day. And I was absolutely, I had neurodivergent students in my class, but even I was like, that's not okay.
no,
We can't do this. And I got quite dysregulated, but actually the wider system management maybe wasn't great, but my colleague that I was teaching with was great because he was like, I'll go and talk to the students. You get coffee. Where's coffee? Seems to be. Um, but then I was still very visibly upset when I said to the students, but I think there's also they can see, and I had this throughout my time teaching and now doing some lecturing and stuff like that, that actually young people can tell if you like them, if you're on their side.
absolutely right.
They can see through any bullshit. And because I cared and I did what I said I was going to
Yeah,
do, and I had that kind of, it was a clean slate. So if something didn't go well yesterday, that's
yeah,
fine. I'm not going to hold a grudge that a lot of people do in
yeah,
professional settings, which
yes,
is wild to me. But that, like, I really care, and this wasn't okay, and I'm really sorry it happened, but unfortunately, it has happened. And you can see, I've tried to advocate and I've been upset,
yeah,
but also now we just need to try and support you the best we
yeah,
can. So,
yeah,
I think
yes.
sometimes there are those systems that need to get with the times a little bit.
I think there are many, many systems like that, talking to children who are in secondary school, who in these secondary schools have a resource base, but the children really want to be seen out of the resource base. Look at me, I don't need that backup, but they do need it. So there's that real it's okay to ask for what you need, and it's okay. And so yes, more adults stepping forward or almost in front, making a barrier to say, hang on a minute, let's check this out with everybody and communicate and give people a bit of time to then think, and then, okay, we can do this. And then, as you say, support them with what they need. But there are
Yeah,
so many obstacles, I think, for, I mean, resource-based schools are amazing, but there's always this, when they're out in the, having social time, I don't want to be one of them. There's too much negativity still
yeah,
around labels and all of that. And so, when I was thinking about getting my diagnosis, I talked to a lot of people who were saying, yeah, 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 I think I have, but I don't want to go down the route of getting a diagnosis because I don't want a label. And I've talked to many teenagers, more than primary school, about I don't want a label, but actually now I've got a timeout card and I get a bit more time in my exams and I
yeah.
get this and this and this. So they can see that it's a positive thing. I also hear lots of stuff on the media. Why are all these people getting diagnosed all of a sudden? Why are all these older women getting diagnosed all of a sudden? Are they neurotic? Are they? It makes me so cross because I try not to get angry about what I didn't, all the support that I could have got when I was younger that I didn't get. And then think, my life could have been so different. I could have gone to university at a normal age and, all of this stuff. I try not to think about that. And I try to think about, okay, so I know now, and this is what I'm going to do. But I think it is okay to get a diagnosis and to get that awareness because well, going from my perspective, I guess everybody's going to be different. But I thought, well, if my two of my children have done it, I can do it and then support my youngest so that he can do it because once I had my diagnosis, it gave me so much. And I'll talk about that now, actually, because awareness is so important. That's what I've learned. And I've always been through my art therapy training, my counseling training, I've always known how important self-awareness is. And I think, we're always working. Once you realize, oh, I'm working, I need to work on this. I've just found this stuff out about myself, whatever it is, I'm curious to find out more. And the more you know about yourself, the more you know you like to find more about yourself so that you're always working. And this awareness recently, because of my diagnosis, I think, then made me realize, hang on a minute, if someone is, if I'm taking something to someone that I don't like, and they're going, oh, what do you mean? You're the one that's acting up. You're the one that's bringing this to me. You're the one with the problem.
Mm.
So they're making themselves a victim. I would then rush in as a rescuer, even though I knew, about the drama triangle and everything. I would rush in as a rescuer because this was an important close relationship for me. Usually, this was the type of relationship that I would behave in this way. And then I would rescue that person so that they didn't have to feel anymore. And I then put my needs to one side to be there for them. Once I realized I was doing that, I couldn't unsee it. And it was very upsetting at the time. But now when I look at it, I think, okay, that awareness made me ask a few more questions. Why? Why do I do that? Why do I do that? Which helped me kind of spiral down to perhaps the beginning of, not a lot of self-worth in a unhealthy family when I was growing up. So that's why. And but then and there's lots and lots of stuff around that, of course. But then taking that knowledge and understanding and creating a better life for yourself by making choices for yourself and thinking, I'm not going to collude with people anymore. I'm making a choice not to do that. And since I have made that choice, so many things have happened in my life which are amazing. So I know it's really hard when you think, oh, I don't want to do the work. And I know that I would like to be more aware, but I know it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But I got great support, and realized that some people were more draining. So going towards people who were more energizing. I just noticing things like that, and relationship with my children changed because the dynamic changed and it was more healthy. And then that awareness and that choice then gave me freedom. That's what it felt like, freedom and permission to be me, to take
Mm.
up the space, be me, do all the things that I really want to do. And that's when I thought, I really want to study more. I really want to do some serious
Yeah.
university study. So I made an application. I wouldn't have done that a couple of years ago, I think. So the diagnosis helped with my awareness, helped with me understanding, seeing the why, linking many things, thinking, don't want to do that anymore. That's obvious. And then making that choice for myself and giving myself permission. And the other thing is I miss horses. I used to ride horses ever since I could remember, but gave up when I was about, I must have been about 25. I had a really bad accident and I found it really difficult to get back into it all. I did, but then my children came along,
Mm.
and then that's the important part of your life. But I've been kind of moaning to people, oh, I really want to get back into horses, but I don't have a field, I don't have the money, I don't have the time to look after a horse. And I thought, hang on a minute, I know people who've
Mm.
got horses, and I used to look after people's horses as well. So I could just say, give me a go. Let me see if I can come and work with your horse, and you might want to let me exercise your horse when you haven't got the time or whatever. So I've now put some feelers out to do
Yeah.
that. And I'm an artist. I love art, but I found it very difficult to give in the past to give myself permission to paint.
Mm.
And it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. I have had someone recently say to me when I was trying to get into a 20-minute a day practice, 20 minutes is a long time. That's a long time to be putting into that night. And I kind of like thought, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's too much. But actually thinking about that now, of course I should be doing that. I'm an artist. I should be doing way more than that. So I think what that's helped me do is just anchor in some really important things,
Mm.
and then feeling like I'm being more myself and allowing all of that lovely stuff in has then brought me more lovely stuff and more amazing people
Yeah.
and more people who are saying, of course you can. Of course
Yeah.
you can, rather than, well, I'm not sure about that. Oh, I'm not sure art's not really a career, is it? And you can't really make money out of art. You can't really make enough money out of art. And I
Mm.
also got told, because I work a lot with homeless adults and vulnerable adults who are housed, I find funding and I take myself for free to go and work with these people because I think, why can't I?
Mm.
Because I really believe in art and abstract art, expressionist art, and what that can do for you.
Yeah.
The whole working in the process, being in the moment rather than the end product. But I was told by a family member, you're at the bottom of your career right now. Look at you. You're really scraping the barrel now. And in those days, I let that in.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, yes, of course, yes. Like, why? Why? Because I think back then I was probably a bit lost because I wasn't diagnosed.
Yeah.
Why do I procrastinate? Why can't I get in the art room? Why do I let people influence me?
Yeah.
Why am I unsure in my own skin? Why can't I be more authentic? Um, and I think that's another thing that I realized after I got diagnosed, which was the most upsetting thing, I think. The amount of masking that I've done probably all my life to fit in with other people so they feel okay.
Yeah.
Because if they feel okay, then I'll feel okay. And that's okay. That's enough for me. And I don't think it is enough for me
Mm.
anymore. Yeah.
There's so much there in what you've said. 20 minutes, plenty, pay
Yeah.
more, pay as much as you want.
Yeah.
But it's great that
Yeah.
you're doing that more. Good luck
Yeah.
with the
Thank you.
university application.
Thank you.
But I think, yeah, how much self-worth is tied in with everything, and that giving ourselves permission, which is maybe a big part tied to self-worth, but those things that we really enjoy that we're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I sometimes have that thought, when you're like a kid and you're like, oh, I wish I could do this thing. And then as an adult, you're like, well, I can't do that thing. And sometimes going like, why not? Like, why
Yeah.
why can't I just
Yeah.
go to the beach for a day and
Yeah.
drive why can't I do those
Yeah.
things? But I think also something you said about the diagnosis and that um that it's and this is something that I really think it's like a starting point
Mm.
to get to know yourself. That it's like,
Mm.
okay, yes, this. And it's not like, that's it. I'm ADHD, I'm autistic, that's it, case
Yeah.
closed. Because it's so different for everyone. And it's that starting point of like, okay, cool. So what does that actually look like for me? And
Hmm.
actually, who am I? And what are my strengths? And what do I care about? And what do I want
Hmm.
to do? Or how am I? That kind of finding yourself after it. Whereas I think
Yeah.
sometimes it can be that sort of, that's it now. That's the answer. And actually, that there is that work to let go of some of that internalized stigma that we have, or
Yeah.
that masking and not feeling we can be who we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have a formal diagnosis, and I went through the autism pathway in 2017, which was before we sort of had that as much understanding, I think, about
Yeah.
how it presents in women. And And even then, I think it was a struggle because of this idea of functioning, like you're functioning,
Yeah.
and since then,
Oh
I
yeah.
think,
Oh yeah.
yeah, well, since then, like understanding a lot more about ADHD in women as well, and I can definitely see both, so possibly ADHD, but also it's that if I think about where I am in my life now, and that question of is it worth going for a diagnosis again with all
Mm.
the challenges there are
Mm.
around diagnosis and waiting lists. And I did actually talk to my GP about ADHD before, and they were like, well, how do you know it's,
Mm.
not just like normal this?
Hmm.
And I was like, it definitely feels more more pathological than just things are
Hmm.
difficult to do, but almost
Hmm.
like having to convince them.
Hmm.
And so I'm very aware that that would probably be a real challenge if
Hmm.
that you're functioning, so are you.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder, and you mentioned hormones, and I've been working a lot more recently with women who are perimenopausal or
Yeah.
menopausal, who
Mm.
that's when
Oh
they've
yeah.
they've realized, and things are more difficult, and
Hmm.
hormonal fluctuation has a massive impact anyway.
Yeah.
Um, Puberty and
Yeah.
periods,
Yeah.
and so I do wonder whether I might get to a point in my life where it's like, oh, actually now I'm not functioning so well, or it is kind of worth doing
Yeah.
it. But I think I have that knowledge for myself, like, no, this fits,
Yes. And
this
that's enough.
that's enough.
Yeah.
Um, and I think particularly with autism, where there isn't something like titration, and
Yeah.
that actually it is a different way of working with it. But
Yeah. Yes, I read somewhere recently that people with autism and ADHD could take the antidepressants to start with for the autism, and I'm thinking, what?
what?
And then while you're on that, then start titration for ADHD medication. And I'm like, what? Yeah, so I think that, well, I reached breaking point quite literally. Um, so I really get what you're saying. There's two things about the functioning side of things, but when you think, hang on a minute, I need something more,
Mm.
and then making investigating that with friends, family, a professional, loved ones before you really, yeah, decide, because maybe it is something niggling, but I do know for a fact that hormones play a massive part in like ramping up your symptoms.
Yeah.
But I hate but you're functioning fine. I just want to say to people, you have no idea. I'm so good at doing this facade.
Yeah.
So good. I've been on the planet a long time. I'm so good that you think, oh yeah, it looks great, but
Yeah.
inside there is shame, there is pain. I'm exhausted. I need more care. I don't know how to ask for it. All of
Yeah.
that. So there's functioning and there's not really functioning because inside you're dying a little bit more
Yeah.
and more and more.
The masking, and I think that plays like a massive part of how it's missed, or we agreed to disagree. And um the assessor, one of the reasons that he was like, no, is he would change the subject and I would go with him. And because I didn't keep going back to what I
Right.
wanted, that meant I wasn't autistic. And I was like, but I have a rule. I have a
Yeah.
rule. I'm
You've
very rule driven.
and plus you're a woman.
Yeah,
And
and
women and men with autism, I've worked with both and
yeah,
they are very different.
yeah. So it's a male assessor. He's the professional.
Yeah.
I have a rule in that situation.
Right.
He's sort of in charge, if you like. So he changed the rule. So I go with it, and that's my rule because I'm very rule governed in
Yes.
different situations, and
Yeah.
that gives me a sense of security and this
Yes.
parameters. Who should I be in this space
Yeah.
so it feels okay? That's all missed and not talked about. And then when I went back for my results, because at that point they thought about it for a while and I had to go back, and he was like, I don't think it is. I think also what didn't help is my parents, I think, had I don't know if they watch this, they might disagree. Feel free to in the comments. Um um but I think they had quite a narrow view of what autism was, probably more that Rain Man kind of presentation. And so actually no, that doesn't fit
Yeah.
because of the masking and everything else.
Hmm.
And I had mental health stuff going on,
Hmm.
but with that, and so I went back for the results and he was like, no. And he's like, you can stay and talk about it if you want. We can go. And I stayed to talk about it because he said you can stay and talk about it if you want. And he was like, oh, people don't normally stay.
Oh.
Like, but you said
Yeah.
we would. And so yeah. Oh my God. We can talk more, but that's my like timer. We've just started, but that's all right.
Wow.
Um yeah. And so
So when he then realized you were wanting to stay more, isn't that then showing him an autistic trait? Because you want to stick to this now
yeah, you've said,
because you've said it's black and white. You've said this is what we're doing, and so don't question it.
yeah.
That's
Who
yeah.
knows?
Oh, there's
Who
all
knows?
sorts
There's
of
so
things.
much there.
Yeah.
So I'm really conscious. I set a timer because last time we were talking, I was like, do you know how we're doing for
Yeah.
time? And that was the end of our timer, but that's all right. Because I realized what I've had in my head is like I still haven't asked you actually
Yeah.
what it is you want to talk about. And I don't know if we've been talking about it or if
Yeah.
there is something else that you were like, actually, this is my thing that I want to talk about.
I think really it's the empowerment. We've covered quite a lot of that, but I just wanted to talk about the hormone thing in women and
Mm,
late diagnosed women.
yeah,
Um, I'm starting a support group because when I got diagnosed, there wasn't a support group anywhere near me who would I could just drop in and see. I really need some help figuring this out. I'm swimming in so much information, but I just need to land with some people who seem friendly in a small group. So there wasn't anything like that for me. So I'm about to start that in June, where I live. But what I think I wanted to say was empowerment for me now is so important because I was so like, well, I can't possibly ask for what I need
mm,
because I've been told I'm too much, too sensitive, too this, I'm too late, I'm too whatever it is. So I can't possibly. So I really wanted to say that follow your gut feel and listen to yourself and take your space, give yourself permission. And if you find that hard, get support. Go and find a
yeah,
professional or someone who's like-minded or you usually have good feelings about, like now I know probably the people that I feel most relaxed with who get me could be neurodiverse. So go towards them and
Yeah.
verbally process whatever it is that's going on for you to get that support to power yourself up.
Yeah.
But in my, just really, really quickly, because I know we've run out of time, I think with menopause, um, it exasperates symptoms. I was told by my GP, it's just menopause, so we're going to
Mm.
put you on HRT. That was a bit of a nightmare because I was put on too much estrogen, and I don't want to go into what that does to your body, but that was horrendous. And then my mum, and it was in lockdown, so there were so many things, and my mum died unexpectedly, very suddenly. And then I learned a lot about family dynamics that I did not like, which then took me to, really investigate things and then think, hang on a minute. So there was so much going on. Over all of that stuff. So lockdown, menopause, GP doing, not thinking about the bigger picture,
Mm.
mum dying, three children at home, one going through A levels, one going through the approach to GCSEs. There was a lot. And also, I couldn't run my forest school groups or my art groups anymore because they were groups. So I had to reassess my work. But then on the other side of that, yeah, so the big thing I think was anxiousness. I became extremely anxious. I even got ocular migraine. So I was out on a dog walk and I would lose vision. And they said to me, I don't know the impressive long word for the optometrist person who's the consultant who talked to me on the phone. It was very quick, so that was amazing that I got that service very quickly because I was very scared and I couldn't see. But basically, they said, this is a warning. You need to de-stress. Had my cortisol levels taken, they were ridiculously high. So then I started to think, hang on a minute. But luckily, my daughter well, she's still at uni. Her university was saying, hang on a minute, you're really anxious. It could possibly be
Mm.
ADHD, could possibly be dyslexia. Da, da, da. So she started that whole process. But there isn't a lot of support for people even at
Yeah.
university. So I really supported her going through that process. So I just wanted to say for women who could be perimenopausal or menopausal and all this anxiousness is eating you alive, and you think, oh, it's just me. It's just because I'm getting older or my children are leaving home or whatever it is. Or just investigate,
Mm.
could it be
Yeah.
ADHD? Could it be autism or whatever? Could it be something like that? And take it to I've got an amazing mental health practitioner at our GP practice who I could speak to for 20 minutes. And he said, I know, I can sense it. I'm going to give you this self thing to fill out. And then you send that back. And from there, we'll go from there. And then I did Right to Choose. And then I did Psychiatry UK. And I was put on a very quick, they were testing a new system out. So I was very lucky to get diagnosed within 3 months, which was amazing. And then having an amazing psychiatrist and then an amazing prescribing psychiatrist who were all really listening to me. So all of that was brilliant. But yeah, I just wanted to say that if anyone's thinking, oh, there's all this stuff going on, just maybe ask people who might be neurodiverse or have a bit more information to be able to support you in
Yeah.
inquiring about that so that you don't lose yourself
Yeah.
and so that you get what you need.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Maybe, yeah, I think it's really important. And I think we can put the link for your group in the
perfect.
show notes or on social media. But
Nice.
I think also that I was thinking we've been doing a pilot on our second iteration, and in the autumn we might have a new one. It's a peer support group. It's slightly different because it's therapeutically held.
Hmm.
So it's neurodivergent um counselors
Yeah,
basically holding it. So it's kind of it's not group therapy properly, but it's a sort of step between
yeah,
that and a support
yeah,
space. And I think they're all kind of different, options that might work for people that
yeah,
actually,
yeah,
but having that sense, and I think that's the kind of thinking behind the podcast and the feel that there is that almost sense of community of like, oh, I can relate to that, or other people get it, or it's not just me
Yeah.
going through this.
Yeah.
Um, I also have like an online like drop in, which is more in, I think, I guess the support space. So we can put some of those if people want to,
Yeah.
if they're local want to see, or
Yeah.
can search in their
Yeah.
local area. But when you were talking about menopause and going to the GP, and um I've been listening to Women's Hour more recently. I go through phases where I don't listen, and I was like, oh, hang on, they've got some good stuff, and I binge it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I've noticed over the past few weeks, months, that actually they're talking about medical misogyny a lot more. So
Hmm.
it's become this,
Wow.
obviously has been there as an experience, but
Yeah.
actually it's recognized and being talked about.
Brilliant.
Um and even like Wes Streeting, who's the
Hmm.
health secretary, was using that term when he was
Hmm.
interviewed by them. So I think there is that recognition that there are systemic issues around women's experiences
Hmm.
and pain and things not being taken so
Hmm.
seriously. And perhaps with menopause, there maybe is still some of that. So I guess maybe that's important to acknowledge as well, that recognizing for yourself in those spaces, and there may still be some challenge in the system of
Yeah.
not being taken seriously, but
Yes.
it doesn't mean that your experience or your sense of it isn't valid.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think the more people that start speaking up and women who are saying, hang on a minute, we deserve more, it
Yeah.
will, it will change quicker. It's changing, it will change quicker.
Yeah.
So
And I,
people will get what they need.
and I had an idea as well what you were talking, because I
Yeah.
think menopause, perimenopause is, I think I've seen more and more women um realizing that they're neurodivergent, and often with a lot of mental health stuff that has been experienced maybe because of not having a diagnosis, or maybe misdiagnosed, and lots of
Yeah.
complicated stuff happening, but that this is a real growing area. um and so I was actually thinking, like, we've got space that I might think about a special group episode, maybe. I did some of
Mm.
these before in my previous podcast, but women who maybe have gone through it or are going through
Mm.
it, who are neurodivergent, to go like, actually, let's talk about
That's
it
such a good idea.
as a topic.
Yeah.
The other one I think was also parenting neurodivergent children when you're
Yes.
neurodivergent, because I think that also,
Yeah.
and what that demands in terms of the co-regulation
Yes.
and all of those things. So maybe,
Absolutely.
so maybe you'll be back twice more,
Oh, I hope so.
for some group
I love
interviews.
it. Yeah.
And maybe that's an idea if there are other things that people want me to find multiple people that we can just talk about,
Yeah.
because I think it's really valuable to talk about. And yeah,
Yes, and there needs to be space for those
yeah,
conversations. And, so that it's not just reams and reams of information. You can actually sit and watch this and take part in, oh, wow, and also it's real life and it's non-scripted. So this is how people are acting in this group. This is how, I don't know, it just feels like a really good thing to do. And
yeah,
I think, yeah, the more that people can do groups and support like that, then the more there's going to be changes and the quicker
yeah,
those changes are, and people getting appreciated for who
yeah,
they are.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a final thought, or anything that were kind of thinking about that you wanted to
I
talk about?
think that it's gone so
It
quickly,
has.
but I feel like we've kind of woven in and out of what my experience was, what I think is important, and how I work and things like that. So I think we've covered everything. The other thing I am doing is starting a mindful art group, because um I think there is space for that as well.
Yeah.
So that if you can hold a space therapeutically, and you've got art materials, and people were told at school, oh, that's no good, they're supposed to look like that. um, it's really good to offer a space where people can just create how they want to, but teaching them lots of techniques to start with. What do the materials do? How can you use them? What does that feel like for you? So it's
Mm.
almost setting up a language, a creative language, which you can then articulate your expression, express your feelings and your emotions. So I'm hoping to set up a group that I hope will then keep running. So that's another thing in my local area, because obviously that's going to be face to face because it's going to be in my studio. But where people feel like, okay, this is a safe, grounded, confidential space that we can create and then see what comes up.
Yeah.
And it's okay to express that or not express that. So it's I'm sure I used to run groups like this, but again, there isn't something like that I found. So offering it out again, I think is really important to me now I've had my diagnosis. So there's that little bit as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in a short amount of time. So
Yeah, and it
thank you.
has
It
breezed
has,
through the
hasn't it?
time. But I think I just wanted to pick up on what you said there because I think, I obviously work with people predominantly in a talking therapy
Yeah.
type way. And even the group that we do, it's predominantly that there is, some mindfulness, but it is that sort of model. And actually, we've had people kind of want something that is a bit different to that, that's somatic in some way, or
Yeah.
being out. So actually, I did work with a
Yeah.
young person where we would walk in
Yeah.
our sessions,
Yeah.
but he would like walk fast and it'd be
Yeah.
like through this field windy, and I'd be like, I don't know if I can hear what you're saying. But um, people want that kind of thing, or
Yeah.
creative or different outlets.
Yeah.
Sometimes the words won't come, or we don't
Yes.
know, or
Yes.
we're holding all this emotional
Yeah.
stuff that it isn't in a kind
Yeah.
of thought word-based way.
Yeah.
So I think having those things, and I think also, obviously there is a real place for therapy and coaching possibly in those kind of supports. But I also think, and I don't know if you've found this as well, that spaces that aren't traditionally therapeutic can be massively therapeutic and
Yes.
helpful. And some of the things that I've found over the last like 10 years, the most helpful with not just my identity and neurodivergence, but also big life things that have happened and grief and all this kind of
Hmm.
stuff have been things like massage therapy
Yeah.
and like sharing circle spaces
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be just the traditional. It
No.
can be these kind of communities or where you feel
Yeah.
like actually I can be me, I can be heard and
Yeah.
listened to and understood. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think that could be part of that support if people are thinking, how can I empower myself? How can I get, this what I need? That's, it's not just like you say, talking therapies. Try out some interest groups, special interest groups, like,
mm,
the art stuff or whatever. And I find, because of my forest school background, I am never afraid of taking clients outside if that's what they need. So I always offer quite a lot of different ways of working. If it's in the studio, I am very blessed to live in a beautiful area which is at the top of a hill. So there's really huge skies and big views from the walks that I take people on woodland, river, canal, meadows, birds. So I kind of look to nature and creativity to add to the relationship, add to the healing relationship. So they are with us as well. So, but yes, like you say, there could be any kind of group like
mm,
ball massage and things like that because somatic work's
yeah,
really important.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
for
I've
coming in.
really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and last episode we talked about food loads. We have not talked about food today, but we
No.
are gonna go and get some food
Yeah, we
after
are.
this. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, thank you for coming in.
Thank
It's
you,
been so
Hannah.
interesting
Yeah,
to talk
thank you.
about everything.
Thank
And
you very much.
maybe you'll be back if I do some
Yeah, I hope so. I'd love
group
that.
things because I think that would be great. Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching or listening, however you've been consuming this. And this is going to come out in like a couple of weeks, start of
Great.
June.
Amazing.
So yeah, they'll be back in July with someone else to be confirmed. Um,
Mm.
so yeah,
Brilliant.
have
Thank you
a
very
great one.
much. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.